Well, good morning, everyone, on this beautiful, sunny, I'm going to just call it into existence so it becomes sunny as we're going through the press conference day. I'm Delia Catalina Ramirez, and I am the Congresswoman of the mighty Illinois 3rd Congressional District, a district that is fighting back against unaccountable leaders that are attempting to advance their fascist agendas. And we know that Bibi Netanyahu and Trump are a lethal, unaccountable extremist duo. We know that they want our resources, they want our land, they want our freedoms, they want our lives so that they can advance their authoritarian agendas across the world. Netanyahu is using U.S. supplied weapons to perpetrate this campaign of starvation, displacement, and death in violation of U.S. and international humanitarian law. A genocidal campaign described by former Israeli Prime Minister Omar as war crimes against Palestinians. And that is why today, rain or shine, we are here, members of Congress and leaders around the country, talking about the bill that I've introduced, the Block the Bombs Act, which today has 45 courageous leaders. Yes. And we know that Block the Bombs bill is the first step towards real oversight and accountability for the consequences of a military campaign that in the last year and a half has leveled Gaza, displaced millions, and killed a reported over 62,000 Palestinians, including hungry children, while waiting for food in line. In the face of unlawful, unaccountable, unconstitutional actions by authoritarians, including our own president, we are fighting back in the streets, in the courts, and in Congress. We are challenging policies that destroy life, that rob our children our future, and dehumanize our neighbors. We are committed to building coalitions across intersections and issues and working really hard to not let those who seek to destroy us divide us. Because we understand that the unlawful actions used against immigrants and Palestinians today will be used tomorrow on anyone they consider undesirable. Because fascism always demands a public enemy. And it is why, despite of the rain this morning, we say enough. We say we rise up. And we call on our colleagues to join us today. And so to talk a little bit more about it, I want to introduce to you now my colleague and co-lead, a champion of justice, Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman Ramirez. You have had absolutely incredible leadership on this issue and so many others, and I am so grateful to co-lead this bill with you. Since the start of the war, the U.S. has supplied $30 billion in weapons to the Israeli government, which we have then seen used time and time again to raise full communities and indiscriminately kill civilians. In that time, just since the beginning of the war, the Israeli government has also bombed multiple other places incessantly. Gaza, the West Bank, but also Lebanon, Syria, Iran, Yemen, Tunisia, and now Qatar. The unspeakable horror that we see every day in Gaza is not a passive act. This is not something that is simply happening. It is happening actively, by design, by the Israeli government, starving people in Gaza, killing Palestinians, committing genocide, a genocide that we in the United States are complicit with. We are the ones who are continuing to supply weapons despite our Leahy laws, despite international humanitarian law, all of which should have been sufficient for us to stop this a long time ago. I'm grateful to my colleagues, including Rashida Tlaib, for co-sponsoring my joint resolutions of disapproval on arms sales to Israel, which we introduced here, which Bernie Sanders introduced in the Senate. We have been at this podium too many times saying the same thing. We can stop this, and we can stop it now. And that is why this bill and Congresswoman Ramirez's leadership and all of our members and activists in the community who are here are saying, let us not continue to see another child die. Let us not continue to see these emaciated bodies. Let us not be complicit in the starvation and the killing and the genocide of people in Gaza. Thank you all so much. And now it is my great honor to introduce somebody who has used her powerful platform, her powerful voice, everything that she has every day to fight. Oh, okay. This person also fits this bill. I thought I was introducing somebody else, but it is my great honor to introduce somebody who has used her powerful platform, her powerful voice to fight every day for this issue and for so many others, the amazing Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from the great state of New York.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman Jayapal. And of course, I'd like to thank Congresswoman Delia Ramirez for your incredible leadership on this issue, sponsoring this bill, authoring it alongside Congresswoman Jacobs as well, and Congressman Pocan. So thanks to all of them for bringing us together today. Thank you as well to our incredible New Yorkers that are here that have come to advocate for this. Thank you, of course, to Mahmoud Khalil, who is here in support of this critical legislation. Morgan Spector, thank you for your support, as well as Cynthia Nixon, who is joining us today. The Israeli government has now killed over 64,000 human beings in Gaza. They have massacred civilians indiscriminately, destroyed nearly every hospital, and forced all of Gaza into starvation. And the Israeli government has accomplished almost all of this with U.S.-provided bombs. It is against United States law to provide weapons to forces that commit war crimes. Yet our government, in Democratic and Republican administrations, has chosen to continue sending American-made bombs to an administration carrying out a genocide. The people of Gaza are stitching up their own wounds because our government has sent the bombs that has killed nearly all of their doctors. The children of Gaza are starving to death because Donald Trump will also not stand up to Benjamin Netanyahu. It is time for Congress to fulfill its obligations, to enforce our own laws, and to block the bombs. It is time for us to fight for a free Palestine, the release of the hostages, and a diplomatic solution to end the cycle of violence. And with that, I proudly support this legislation, and I would love to introduce a phenomenal New Yorker that has been steadfast in her advocacy and support of peace globally and for the human rights of all Palestinians, and that is Cynthia Nixon. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexandria. Thank you all for being here today. My name is Cynthia Nixon. I am an actor, I am an activist, and then I am the mother of adult Jewish children who have asked me to speak out in every way I can against this genocide that is being waged in their name. I'm here in Washington because I cannot and I will not be silent as my own government arms and funds the horrors and atrocities that we are seeing take place in Gaza right now, at this moment, as we stand here. For almost 2 years now, so many of us have done everything in our power to stop the flow of U.S. bombs and weapons to Israel that are being used to decimate neighborhoods, refugee camps, whole family lineages, hospitals, schools. Bombs that are being used to kill children in staggering numbers. We have moved those in our families, those in our workplaces and houses of worship. We have taken to the streets. We have gone on hunger strikes. But we are here today because finally the power to stop this lies with the lawmakers here on Capitol Hill. Our members of Congress have the power not just to end the U.S. complicity in this genocide, but to end this genocide itself. So many lives have already been lost, but that number pales beside the number we are about to lose if this deliberate starvation and carpet bombing of the entire Palestinian population is allowed to continue. That is why we are here, to implore members of Congress to take the step that these representatives behind me, those who have already stood up to support the Block the Bombs Act, have taken. The situation in Gaza is worse than it has ever been, but the opposition to the genocide here in the capital and across this country is also greater than it has ever been. We have the power to change this catastrophic trajectory. The Israeli government is currently starving hundreds of thousands of people in Gaza. The Israeli government is right now escalating its full-scale assault on Gaza City, killing scores of people daily and forcibly displacing hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, many of whom have already been displaced multiple times over. This will irreversibly compound the unimaginable level of suffering that Israel's genocidal campaign against Palestinians in Gaza has wrought. Roughly 28 children a day are killed in Gaza. 28 children every day. An entire classroom of children every day. Let us be clear. The majority of Americans are with us. They do not want their taxpayer dollars being used to pay for bombs that are killing children, women, and men in Gaza. The United States cannot continue bankrolling a genocide. The Block the Bombs Act is a simple, clear, and powerful step toward ending our complicity in the mass killing of Palestinian civilians. I thank Representatives Ramirez, Jacobs, Jayapal, and Pocan for their leadership in introducing the bill, and I thank the members of Congress who have already co-sponsored. I call on every single member of Congress to join them now to stop the flow of weapons, to save lives, to stop this genocide before it is too late. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I would now like to introduce my friend and co-star, Morgan Spector.
Good morning. I want to thank all the members for being here and for the opportunity to speak.
Sorry.
It's okay. I'm often asked why I feel personally compelled to speak out about what is happening in Gaza. There are many answers to that question, but some of it is generational. I came into political awareness around the time of the war in Iraq, a catastrophic war begun under false pretenses and justified by lies. Hundreds of thousands of Iraqis died, along with thousands of U.S. soldiers. Many of those who advocated or excused that war now refer to it as a mistake, like the war in Vietnam, or many of the other bloody, pointless, costly so-called mistakes that we rationalize away as the errant gestures of a benevolent but imperfect colossus. I believe we owe the dead more than that some greater transformation must be offered as recompense to those victims of our mistakes. We might start by changing course in Gaza. Another thing that brings me here today is the fact that I am a parent. It is one of the great joys of my life. But of course, being a parent also means living in constant fear that something awful might happen to my child. I worry, constantly and vividly. For the last 2 years, I have not been able to look at my daughter without thinking of what is happening in Gaza. Gaza is every parent's nightmare coming true, every second of every hour of every day. I think of her under the rubble, trapped and dying slowly, with no help coming. I think of her hungry, of the shame and rage I would feel at not being able to feed her. I think of the ways my capacity for kindness might wither just when she needed me most. And I think of her as one of the orphans on the floors in the shattered hospitals of Gaza, too shocked to scream, covered in blood, alone. Over the course of 2 presidencies, under the leadership of both parties, the United States has been complicit in a genocide. It is abundantly clear that Israel is not going to stop until they are forced to stop. Just yesterday, they bombed Qatar in an assassination attempt on the Hamas representatives negotiating a diplomatic resolution to the violence. Under President Trump, as under President Biden, Prime Minister Netanyahu enjoys seemingly total impunity. If Israel is going to be stopped, Congress will have to do it. By withdrawing vital U.S. support, by supporting Block the Bombs, Congress has an opportunity to end this genocide. In a better, fairer world, the United States would not be backstopping the slaughter of tens of thousands of children, but preventing it. In that world, international law would constrain every country, not just those too weak to resist its imposition. In that world, the presidents and prime ministers and secretaries and soldiers who have facilitated and carried out this campaign of extermination would be held accountable for what they have done, and a chastened international community would help Palestinians rebuild in a state where they had equal rights and true freedom. But we are living in a time when it is barely permissible to articulate that vision, let alone implement it. So instead, we are here asking our representatives to use the tools they have to do what is required by U.S. and international law, by basic decency, and by all of the Americans who do not wish a genocide to be committed in our names. Stop arming the murderers. Stop sending our weapons to be used on a helpless and starving civilian population. I don't think it's an overstatement to say that in Gaza today, the 20th century order is dying and the 21st century is being born. The world that my child, that all of our children will grow up to live in, is being born there. Will that world be one in which the most powerful country the world has ever seen stands on the side of extermination and brute force, in which genocide is simply another policy choice? Or will this be a world in which we learn from our mistakes, in which the law binds us all, in which we can protect our children? That choice is up to our Congress. Thank you. I want to introduce Representative Val Hoyle.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning, and I represent the central and south coast of Oregon, and in Oregon we call this liquid sunshine. So, welcome to my world. I want to thank Representative Ramirez for putting this bill forward, and everyone here today, and all my colleagues that have signed on to this bill. What we're witnessing happening to the Palestinian people in Gaza is a choice. It is a policy choice that the United States is complicit in, that the United States has a moral responsibility to do everything it can to stop. And it is the same kind of policy choice that sent Native Americans down the Trail of Tears. It's the same kind of policy choice that the British used to starve and displace half of the Native Irish population during the Great Hunger, which is how most of my family ended up here. I heard those stories 3 generations later because generational trauma does not go away easily. It's what I grew up hearing, and I cannot stand by and watch those same choices being made and the same trauma inflicted onto the Palestinian people. The Block the Bombs Act says that if the United States sends weapons to another country, then that country must follow our laws and international laws when using those weapons. This is a reasonable, common sense request that everyone should support. And I will be encouraging my colleagues to do so. Right now, we must use the levers of powers that we have to stop what's happening to the Palestinian people, and this is the right step forward. Thank you, and I introduce my good friend, Lloyd Doggett.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman, for your leadership on this. We gather here in the rain as weapons made in America rain down on the children of Gaza. Only a few weeks after the massacres of October the 7th, I heard of 2,000-pound American-made bombs being dropped near refugee camps in Gaza. I joined the cry for a ceasefire. And when we had the first opportunity here on the floor of the Congress, I was among the few of us here to vote to stop the sale of offensive weapons, the provision of offensive weapons to Israel. This is the same Israeli government that continues to ignore the pleas of the families of the hostages, which it has deliberately chosen to abandon in favor of a policy of perpetual war. And the attack yesterday against Qatar, which houses thousands of U.S. troops, shows that our blustery but truly weak President Trump does not have the ability to stand up and impose reasonable restraints. He is incapable of doing his job. We are seeing the expelling of millions of Palestinians from Gaza and the West Bank, as a Netanyahu minister has urged. That will only increase the isolation of Israel from the world and ensure its permanent insecurity. The only language that this extremist government will understand is when Congress finally has the courage to stop offering more empty expressions of concern and start ending the flow of offensive weapons. The horrendous crimes of Hamas do not in any way justify the ethnic cleansing, the war crimes that are being committed against innocent Palestinians, most of them children, through a medieval-type siege that uses starvation and denies food, medicine, and water as a weapon of war. With many in Gaza described as walking corpses, 12,000 children under 5 years of age, malnourished, and thousands more have died. Yes, this gathering that we have here today will not stop the killing today or tomorrow, and we recognize that some will deliberately misconstrue what we are saying today. But let us recognize that as the extremist Netanyahu government uses American weapons to reduce Gaza to an uninhabitable place, all who fail to speak out now are complicit. We must have meaningful action, and Congresswoman Ramirez is leading the way on that.
Thank you.
We have a next speaker?
Yes, right.
Oh, sorry. So now Dr. Hussein.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Adil Hussein, and I'm an emergency medicine physician from Dallas, Texas. I recently returned from Gaza, where I was stationed in Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis in the south, which is the last major tertiary care hospital still standing in the Gaza Strip. Words cannot describe the horrors that I witnessed in Gaza. During my time there, in the emergency room, we had a mass casualty incident nearly every single morning. By day, we had children shot by snipers in the head, the neck, the chest, and the abdomen. And by night, we had hundreds of Palestinians swarming into the ER from bomb blast explosions. What I saw were men, women, children, families torn apart, literally and figuratively. For example, my patients included a 2-year-old girl who suffered a bomb blast injury. She was pulled from the rubble and her arm was shredded to pieces up to her elbow. We had to amputate her arm. I treated a 1-year-old baby boy who suffered severe burns to 80% of his body, rendering him completely unrecognizable to his mother. The moment his mother laid eyes on her child, she fainted and collapsed. And after extensive resuscitative efforts, he slowly died in front of my eyes. As a physician and as an eyewitness on the grounds, I must tell you, these weapons being used, especially these bunker-busting bombs, are not serving the case for security or defense. They are devastating a civilian population. With over $30 billion in U.S. military aid provided to Israel since October 2023, this implicates us directly in what we can only describe as a humanitarian catastrophe, a genocide. Before I left Gaza, we asked the people of Gaza, what do you need from us? What do you want us to convey to the American people, to the Western world? And their response was simple. They said, tell them we are human beings. So I urge us to halt the flow of U.S. weapons to Israel, support the Block the Bombs Act, and allow these human beings the chance to live a life like you and I. Thank you. So next we have Congresswoman Lateefah Simon.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor.
Well, good morning. My name is Congresswoman Lateefah Simon, and I represent California's 12th Congressional District. And I come to Congress from a lineage of folks who know that war does not make us stronger. from a lineage of Ron Dellums and Barbara Lee, who were very clear that we as a nation cannot kill and slaughter our way to peace, that we cannot fund the machinery of death, and that safety is found in care and not conquest. I am proud to stand with my colleagues today and say clearly that the genocide against the Palestinian people must end. More than 60,000 people have been slaughtered by the Israeli government, and we cannot send bombs. We must not send bombs to a government that uses the access to food as a weapon of war and clearly daily bombs civilians. These are clear international human rights violations, and I am proud to co-sponsor, along with my colleagues, the Block the Bombs Act. It's clear. Let us stop the murder and the slaughter of innocent civilians in Gaza. The Block the Bombs Act would require the withholding of weapons to Israel and ensure and demand Israel's compliance with both U.S. and international law. Now, I want to be clear about this. We grieve deeply and profoundly the children of Gaza whose bodies, as we speak, are being torn by shrapnel. We grieve them. And we can, in the same moment, deeply grieve the families in Israel who lost loved ones and who were killed. We can grieve them. We can refuse simultaneously. We can refuse the trap that tells us that we must choose whose pain is real. There are no two sides when we're talking about tens of thousands of children slaughtered. That's right. We must demand and insist that the genocide that is happening in this moment not be committed in the name of anyone who has been murdered. And that we all must, in this building, be committed to the moral act of working towards a just peace. I'll end by saying this: a just peace everywhere, from Washington, D.C., to Haiti, to Sudan, to Gaza. The people of this nation and the people around the world are counting on the folks at the highest levels of government to act with the morality that is deeply written in Scripture. We must block the bombs. The United States government can no longer be complicit in the murdering of children. We can no longer be complicit in supplying and funding 2,000-pound bombs to hit hospitals and orphanages and tent cities. I'm hoping members of the House of Representatives of the 119th Congress step up with their moral beings and stop the carnage. Thank you very much. And I believe my wonderful colleague is right after me, Representative Ayanna Pressley. Thank you, Ayanna.
Thank you, Congresswoman, for your more clarity always. I come to this as a woman of faith, and I can't help but to revisit the psalm that I learned as a child. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. There has been no joy. For 23 months, there has only been weeping. And in that time, 20,000 children have been robbed of their lives. One Palestinian child is killed every hour. 1,000 of those children have been under the age of 1. James Baldwin reminds us that the children are all of ours, every one of them, all over the world, always. There's something about being a parent, either by blood or bond, that can radicalize you for good if you let it. It will embolden you in ways you never imagined. And once you start to connect that every child is a universe, every child is someone's whole world, you cannot unsee how connected our shared humanity truly is. Right now in Gaza, babies are dying, killed by airstrikes and military blockades. No child should die of starvation as food and baby formula sit mere miles away.
held back by the Israeli military from dying families. No child should shake in their sleep as bombs erupt overhead or plead to die with their parents so they are not left alone. For nearly 2 years, we have watched the genocide unfold in real time. I'm devastated by every child, elder, parent, and loved one who has been murdered. Israelis, Palestinians, and Americans. The cruelty taking place in Gaza is unfathomable. Death by starvation, death by airstrike, death by military firing squad. Shamefully, the United States has not only turned away, it has manufactured and delivered the very weapons that rain down on innocent civilians. Entire families have been murdered. Entire families have been murdered. From infants to elders and every generation in between. For months now, we have called for an embargo on offensive weapons. Thank you to my sister, Congresswoman Ramirez, for her leadership and her clarity introducing H.R. 3565, affirming our calls. The United States must stop sending bombs. We have called for a critical surge of humanitarian aid, medical equipment, food, and baby formula. Last month, I led a letter and 100 members of Congress joined with me to call on Secretary Rubio to use the full authority of the United States government to pressure Israel to surge ready-to-feed baby formula to families who need it desperately. Secretary Rubio is a father. Surely, Secretary Rubio, you must know the panic of fumbling for a bottle to feed a hungry child in the middle of the night. Now imagine, Secretary Rubio, if what stood between you and soothing and feeding your baby was a military blockade. Can you? Can you imagine it? Because you still have not responded in word or action. To date, you have ignored the House and the Senate, calling on you to act and respond. Every day that you fail to act costs precious lives. Our humanity is at stake here. Vengeance and greed cannot be the United States policy doctrine. No country can bomb their way to peace. Starving a child is violent, and the children are all of ours, always. History has its eyes on us. Our children will ask what we did in this moment, and the only acceptable answer is everything that we could. And with that, who's that? Oh, okay, wonderful. And now we'll hear from Mahmoud Khalil, my brother.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Congresswoman Ramirez, for leading this effort, and for everyone else who's co-leading and co-sponsoring this effort. I'm here in Washington, D.C. today because I refuse to be intimidated into silence. As all of us watch a continued genocide unfold in the palm of our hands, I will never be silent to advocate for my people. What we're seeing today in Gaza and across Palestine is unimaginable. Children are being starved to death. Hundreds of thousands of people, millions now, are being forcibly displaced from their homes over and over again, just as my family was forced from their homes in Tiberias during the Nakba. All of this happening with an ongoing flow of weapons, support, and excuses from the U.S. government. Not only is the U.S. government sending money and weapons to Israel to kill Palestinians, but the Trump administration is saying you must be silent about watching your people, your community, be massacred with U.S. tax dollars, or else we'll make you disappear. The American people want their tax money to fund their communities, their education, their housing, not bombs and warplanes that are killing Palestinians every single day and turning Gaza into rubble. The U.S. government has sent over $30 billion worth of weapons and equipment to the Israeli occupation power over the past 2 years. These weapons and equipment are being used by Israel to kill Palestinians, to carry out mass atrocity after another mass atrocity against my people. There's one and clear, obvious way for Congress to act and save lives. They should stop all weapons. All weapons. Stop sending all weapons to Israel. It must be clear now that Israel is a rogue and genocidal state and should not benefit from any support whatsoever until they end their occupation for the Palestinian people, until the Palestinian people realize their inalienable right of self-determination. Thank you.
And to wrap us up, I want to introduce one of our last speakers here on this rainy day. Because for us, rain or shine, justice must flow. I want to introduce to you a fighter, a lover, and someone who always speaks truth to power, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar.
Thank you, Congresswoman Ramirez, for bringing us together, and thank you all for being here. This issue is deeply personal to me. I know what it means to live in an environment where you're constantly worried if there is going to be a bomb that ends your life. So when I see the United States made bombs dropping on families, on children, on hospitals, it breaks something in me, and it should break something in all of us. That is why I am glad that Congresswoman Ramirez introduced Block the Bombs Act. Right now, we are watching the Israeli government carry out one of the most destructive bombing campaigns in modern history. With the support of the United States, with weapons that are produced by us, paid for by us. Just this week, the Israeli airstrikes in Gaza killed 65 Palestinians and injured 320 people. The Israeli army continues to block desperately needed food and medical aid. Children are dying from malnutrition and dehydration. Not because there is no food, but because it is being deliberately denied by the Israeli government. Over 65,000 Palestinians have been killed, and it has to stop. We as a country have to live up to the promise of keeping peace, of defending human rights, and upholding our laws. Israel must be held to account for their war crimes, for the genocide, for the occupation, for the apartheid, for the deliberate starvation of Palestinian people. We have to make sure that our aid is not enabling the violation of human rights, of international law. We are responsible. We are complacent. We must draw the line. We have to stop writing a blank check for destruction. The only side we should be choosing is the side of humanity. No children should go to sleep wondering if their home will still be standing in the morning. No government, including our own, should ever be in the business of making this nightmare possible. So I'm asking my colleagues to join me in saying enough is enough. Let's pass the Block the Bombs Act. It is time.
Thank you. Thank you. You've heard it from my colleagues. You've heard from Cynthia and Morgan and from a doctor who was on the ground. Palestinians just want you to know that they are human beings. And so I want to thank every single member of Congress who has done the courageous thing to stand up for humanity today. 45 members of Congress. But over the next few days, we'll be talking to many more members of Congress and invite them to the side of humanity to join the bill. And I want to thank everyone that is here today because your voice is so incredibly important for a time such as this. May we remember our role, our purpose in this precise moment. And may we remember that this bill, not a resolution, but this bill has the ability to take tangible action for Palestinian lives today. With that, we close this press conference. Thank you.